and my music doesn't work. What happened? It doesn't matter. Welcome to Games Talk Live. We are now on NPR Radio, Colt. It's great to be here.
Thank you for having me on your 100th episode, FOnz.
It is my
really appreciate it.
Well, welcome. That is the voice, the golden smooth voice of Colt Eastwood. He is my guest today, and we're going to be talking about everything gaming. It's my 100th episode of Games Talk Live, and it's just so nice that now we're on the radio, on the AM radio. I can't believe it. We've made it. No, welcome everybody to the Games Talk Live podcast. Look, the 100th episode. Didn't think I'd ever get here. Yes, I've missed a lot of episodes, or missed a lot of Sundays. Yeah, I'm trying not to miss anymore. Of course, I've been through some stuff, and I had to miss those. But I'm here now, and I welcome everybody who's here in the chat. Thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's great to see you, all of you. Maybe not some of you. No, all of you, of course. But my guest is Colt Eastwood. Colt, thank you for being here, my friend. Thank you. I couldn't think of anybody else to be here on my 100th episode, man. I was really happy you said you can make it today.
Oh, thank you. I would be here every week if I could.
Yeah, we have a good
Sith
time.
Lord in the chat says, Colt, nice shirt. And I look at the camera, I'm like, kind of look like a dude in 1992, Like,
yeah.
Whoa, yeah. I'm still alive.
I'm still standing. No.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No, it's great to see you. It's great to see you in that shirt, of course. It's awesome. It's great to see everybody out there. We are, Colt, before we get into the topics, what have you been up to lately? What have you been playing, my friend?
I've been bouncing around on games, not like really feeling something that's going to keep me going until the next big one. So I've been playing a lot of Starfield still, back onto it, desperately waiting for them to expand something or do mods, and playing some Mass Effect 1. Yeah, I was doing some weird, like kind of like dipping back and kind of reflecting off of what we played this year and finding out which games are really amazing, and
which games
kind of hanging out with people like you and Red Wolf from Renegade Podcast.
Yeah, we had a great time last night in the party chat with Red Wolf, me and Colt. We had a great time, man. It was so much fun.
Funny.
And then we all just left. We made a Taco Bell run. Like all of us just took off.
Yeah, you were like, I'm going to get a Baja Mountain Dew Zero, and I was like, well, I'll be right back. And then it's good. It's good to.
Didn't have a Barfarito this time. Remember when we used to go to Taco Bell and get that box to try to win a Xbox One X back in the day?
Say it with me. The Barfarito.
The Barfarito, people. I got to the point where I was just throwing that Barfarito right out my window because I got so sick of those things. But
trying to win the Xbox Scorpio.
I didn't win it. And I really wanted to win that sucker because it had the little Taco Bell sound, the bell, when you hit the power on. It was like, doom. The sound. I wish I had it on.
You just wanted a free Xbox One X when that thing was going to launch.
That's what I wanted.
Because that was going to be, you were going to get the Taco Bell Xbox when the thing launched. So like it was the deal. And I kid you not, FOnz, almost once a week, I would bring home like 5 of them. And I'm like, here's what we're eating tonight, family.
The Barfarito.
And they're like, oh no. Yep. Give me the coats.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
You know what? I got a super chat here from Sith Lord. Thank you very much. He says, congrats on 100 episodes. Here is to 400 more. I don't know if I'll make it till 400. I don't know. Man, you'll
be like 70.
Yeah. No, I should make it. I should make it. I think so. Biff Rinaldi celebrating 11 months with me. Thank you very much, man. It's so awesome of you. I never really sit here and ask people to really, to join my channel or anything, but people have, and it really, it's really something. It's really amazes me that people do that for me, to show me love, show me support. I really appreciate that. You guys don't know how much that means. That's awesome that you do that. I rarely ever ask for a like either. And, I know I should, because a lot of people don't think sometimes when they come here and they just enjoy the show and they're not hitting the like button. But yeah, if you like it, hit that like button. If you don't, you can always hit the dislike too. It's there. And I love to see the little thumbs fly up or fly down live when you do it. I wish it showed on my screen for you guys. But it's funny because across my screen, I see the little thumbs up or thumbs down fly away. It's so cool. And it goes into my computer screen. Like whatever background I have, I see the thumb up go through it because it's a Mac-based program on a Mac, and it's cool. I see all the likes right now going up.
Way better.
It's real cool. I love it. Shout out to you, Colt Classic Cage. I see you in the chat. She says, "What up, fam? What up, Cassie? Good to see you." Yeah. So he says, Biff Rinaldi, that is. Thank you for the 11 months. He says, the dynamic duo back at it again. Hope everyone had a good holiday. Congrats on 100 FOnz. Hit that like button. Couldn't have said it better myself. It is the dynamic duo. Every time me and Colt get together, we have a good time. We just have a great time.
We were meant to be since way back in the day. We've been reminiscing a lot lately about how long we've been in this community and talking about RDX and good friends like Dealer and the people that we've met through all this stuff and the late night parties. And it's been a long time.
Yeah, no, it has. And it's been awesome. I mean, we've known each other now over 6 years, been podcasting together, gaming together, talking, all that, and have become really close friends. And it's been awesome. It's been really awesome. Let's get into our first topic here, though. I want to talk about this, Colt. Apparently, Xbox consoles aren't selling very hot in the UK anyway. Apparently, there's been a 52% drop in hardware sales in there in the UK. And, you could say, that Europe has never been a strong market for Xbox, which would be correct, but it's still a 52% drop. That's nothing to sneeze at, Colt.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think about that?
The UK is one of their stronger markets next to North America and Brazil and some of South America. So that's not a good thing. I also think Xbox has such a wider strategy than just selling plastic. I know that when Xbox leadership looks at how the platform is doing, they look at Surface Pros selling. They think of even Rogue Allies and Steam Decks and PCs as a potential place where people are playing, where they see people engaging. So a cheap Xbox console is just one of the places to get people into the ecosystem and get them on Game Pass, get them buying games, because consoles don't make them very much money. And when you see them going down, it is also a reflection of where they are misstepping. And it goes into a lot of what we're going to talk about today, which might be a little dicey if you're not wearing super comfortable underwear.
Really? Okay, I don't know what underwear has to do with it, but
well, we're
going to be talking about a lot of stuff.
Again. I'm wearing burlap underwear, and I got to listen to this.
Yeah, really. Yeah, man, why am I wearing this potato sack? It chafes my thighs, my inner thighs. It's all doom and gloom for Xbox, though, right? Hell, I just read an article recently that talked about how the Starfield player base has fell off since its release almost 2 freaking months ago.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how a single player game has fell off in numbers. Like, no shit.
Language.
That's what happens. Oh, the language, as my wife would say. She's French. No, I'm just kidding. But it's crazy that there's articles being written like this. And I guess, here's the tweet about that, by the way. I captured that for you guys. From Gaming Bolt. It said, Starfield could be in trouble. Player numbers plummet. Starfield is a single-player game and not a live service game. This was, I love those community tab things they put on some posts sometimes on Twitter. Now they do that. On X, I should say. Not Twitter. I get so weird calling it X. Like, I feel like when I tell my wife or something that I've been on X all day, she's like, are you doing drugs? Are you doing drugs? Or are you on that porn? And no, I'm watching X, Twitter, what was formerly known as Twitter. Starfield is a single-player game, it says, and not a live service game. The player count holds no bearing on how well a game is doing. The success of Starfield is based purely on sales and downloads alone. Well, of course, engagement has something to do with it, but engagement always falls off after some time. I mean, for a single player game, any single player game out there, I don't care what single player game it is. It's what happens. Once you beat a game, I don't know about you, Colt. Once I beat a game, I rarely ever go back to that single player game. Rarely. Like, it has to really impress me so much to think, oh, let me start another run through. Like,
yeah, there's like a dozen games that I go back and play again or mess around with. But in contrast to that, FOnz, I went back to Fallout 4 a little bit, and I went and looked at my achievements, and I played that game almost a solid 4 months before I finally said, okay, I'm good. That's when I ended up wrapping the single player campaign.
Oh, I thought you were rapping. I was about to say, spit those bars, Colt Eastwood.
You and I were talking about this last night when we were talking about what doesn't make Starfield the most amazing game ever made, and we talk about Fallout 4 came out in September, I think, and I played it all the way exactly 4 months. It was like almost 4 months total that I finally wrapped the last achievement where I finished the campaign. And one of the factions. And then I finally moved on to something else. But Starfield, I played it solid for 2 months. So half the time of Fallout 4. And everyone's doing this big argument right now. It's like, oh, everybody's been playing Skyrim for 10 years. I'm like, yeah, but Skyrim's had 10 years of mods. It's had
and re-releases,
expansions. I think it had 2 years of DLC. It had one of the first DLCs for Skyrim was being able to build your own settlement or your own home and decorate it.
Yeah.
And then they had other expansions, and then the mods and community creative stuff has kept that game going for a decade, which will eventually happen to Starfield. But now the wait for new content is like really, really painful.
Face 23 BKNY, I see your post. He says, FOnz Gaming, if Xbox consoles stop selling, you guys are not worried about them stopping making the consoles. That's what he's essentially saying here. And if it did, I assume, man, this is all like, dude, English, bro, English. I don't know what's going on here.
Here's the problem with
will you guys go PC? Basically, he's saying if the consoles were to stop it, for Xbox,
you already should be able to play what you want on PC
where you want,
once in a while,
where you want,
and I know FOnz can speak about this quite a bit, but I play 4 or 5 games a year on PC. Some of them are brand new launches.
And why is that? Tell people why you play on 4 or 5 games on PC. Why is that? Because I know you do like to play on the Xbox console, but why? Yeah. What makes you turn to the PC?
Oh, the PC's a pain in the butt. I mean, there's no way around it. You're not going to get the same convenience. And I play a PC like a console. I have my Starfield controller. Where did I put that thing? I have my Starfield controller connected to my PC with a wireless dongle. So I'm on my TV. It's like a console, but I have to have a mouse and keyboard at the reach to get in and out of games, to start parties up or get out of them, to turn the volume up and down properly. It's just little stuff. But we
were talking about that last night. It's like the whole convenience when it comes to a console, it's nice because having that mouse and keyboard next to you at all times is a pain in the butt. Especially like, if you're in a lazy boy or something, in a single seated, it's like you have to have a table there or something, or laying on your lap, and it's ridiculous. Like, that said,
it's not the end of the world. But
that said, it's not the end of the world. But why do you turn to the PC for those 4 or 5 games a year? What is it about? I have to play this on PC. Just tell them.
Well, I mean there's a couple. Yeah, it's mostly the 60 frames problem.
Facts
that we're going to run into.
That's really it.
The rest is it's basically the 60 frames problem.
Yeah, it's the frame rates. We want the higher frame rates, and we want those frame rates that. Yeah, I mean, by all rights, we were kind of promised. At the beginning of the Series X generation.
Yes, every generation you think that it's going to be that the problem's going to be fixed, and it isn't. But I know it's not the best example of a game, but Gotham Knights. I played that on PC. Well, it's funny because I got it for like $42 at launch. But like,
Yeah, so did I. So did I. But I played it on console. But I also used.
I did both.
There.
I went back after I finished Gotham Knights on PC, and I played almost the whole game on console. And I'm like,
it wasn't that bad, but yeah,
stupid compromise.
If you jump to a 60 frames game and then go back to a 30 frames game, there's a big like difference. You feel it right away. It's jarring.
Yeah, and it's mostly in moving the camera, spinning the camera. When you look around, it just feels really horrible. But and I can tell you from much experience, I've got 100 hours plus on Starfield on Xbox Series X and another 100 on PC. And that 60 frames on PC is really nice, but it's definitely not a, man, I can't wait to spend 4 times the amount to play that game at 60. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a weird measuring stick, but I have the option to play both. And you really got to understand, like, Face, you really need to listen to this. Now that PlayStation is out of their, he hates when I say this, but now they're out of their PlayStation 4.5 games, all those games that they started building on the PS4 to run on a 1 teraflop machine. Not that teraflops matter, but now that right now, Sony Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, all their big heavy hitting studios are building games from scratch, from the ground up on their newest iteration of their engines. They're going to push graphic fidelity, and they're going to push that hardware. And other big AAA studio multiplats are going to start giving you Unreal Engine 5 games at 30 frames on the PS5, and even the PS5 Pro will not save you from 30 to 60 frames like we saw with the PS4 Pro and the One X. Like, you got some games that ran at 60, but remember those mid-gen consoles were not the Band-Aid for 30 frames games. They mostly gave us resolution. And until developers start pushing all the processing to the CPU instead of offloading it to the GPU, you're going to get new advanced games built from the ground up at 30 frames. Some will be at 30 frames on these new consoles.
We're constantly moving in technology. Like, it's constantly moving forward in the PC space, especially. Like right now, the top graphics card is like a 4090, but right around the corner, there's going to be a 5090 or whatever it is, you know? And it's just going to keep making these developers push these games graphically again and again. And we've seen this generation after generation. This is no different. And it's one of the reasons why I go back to that promise of 60 frames with the Series X. It realistically can't be met for every game because technology just keeps moving forward. Developers want to push the technology. They want to focus on graphics too, because let's face it, that's what a lot of people see, and really that's why they gravitate to certain games. They look at the graphics and they go, whoa, I want to play that. That looks amazing. And it's just how we are inherently. Like, I think people in general just want to see good looking games. That's how it is. I mean, some of us are more focused on that than the gameplay itself. You know, and I think that at times is detrimental to the game, but I mean, that's how it is sometimes.
Half of the diehard fan base is telling the public that they want the quality mode, that they play at 30 frames at 4K with a shuddering and juddering camera, and they prefer it. I was talking to a couple of my good friends who I'll keep them nameless for now, but they're playing Alan Wake at 30 and they love it. And I'm like, okay.
And when you see Alan Wake 2 running, you know, on a PC comparatively, it's like, ooh, man. Like, I personally have experience with Baldur's Gate 3. That's what I've been playing a lot of lately. And as I'm playing the game, I'm playing on a cloud-based service. I'm playing on GeForce Now. And the reason why I decided to do that was because, well, it's not out on Xbox, and the PlayStation 5 version, everything I've seen, there's problems with the game on PlayStation 5. People are running into it now. But it's not just that. It doesn't look as good. It doesn't look half as good as it does on the PC. It looks incredible on the PC. And it's got some issues there too, but don't get me wrong. But yeah, for $500 it's great, right? But the thing is, it's not reaching those frame rates. It's not a consistent 60 frames. Whereas even playing it on GeForce Now, I can play it on, you know, high to ultra settings, DLSS on, you know, 4K, and get over 60 frames, up to 120 frames at times. and it's just a different feeling. And I prefer that in games. I wish, and I said this to you, and I've said it to some other friends as well, and I'll say it to my audience. If Xbox, not Xbox, because Xbox does put all their games out there for everybody to play. I can access Game Pass through GeForce Now. But if I was able to access every game out there, including PlayStation games on GeForce Now, I would have no reason to really buy any more hardware. I really see that this cloud, and this is a huge thing, for a service that, mind you, will cost you $19 a month for the ultimate package. You can get like a $10 package there. It has really impressed me with the latency, the lack of that latency, I should say. I don't really feel it in these single player games. I played a lot of games on this service too. I just played some Wolfenstein Old Blood. I played Doom Eternal. I've played, Baldur's Gate a lot of, and I'm having no issues with the service. Now that's provided you have a really good internet service. I do have gigabit service, so that's a big deal.
That's true.
So I mean, it's not for everybody, but I do see this. Here's the funny thing, though, Cole. As we were talking last night, I see this as really being part of the big future of gaming, because
it is.
And I never thought cloud gaming would be any good. Believe me, people, I thought that cloud gaming was just going to be crap. It would never be good. But I am really impressed. I really am.
Well, it's because Xbox's cloud service isn't the top tier way to play cloud, but there are actually 3 futures for gaming that console guys don't want to hear. Even when the PlayStation CEO says console gaming is niche, and consoles make up less than 25% of the gaming worldwide population. Here's the 3 futures for gaming: cloud, handheld, and PC.
Yeah.
Like eventually console, and I would sit here and say, yeah, PS6 and the next Xbox could possibly be the last consoles. And then they'll become something that maybe, I could see them maybe making something after that, but
yeah. And I've always been that guy that touted,
like something people don't really buy.
Yeah. And I've always been that guy that touted native hardware. And I still do to a degree. Don't get me wrong. If I could afford like a really high-end gaming PC, that's where I'd be right now. That's where I'd be for all my gaming if I could. And, for Xbox games, it's there. It's already there. It's there. Game Pass is there on GeForce Now as well. Like I have access to all my games there. And that's really cool. And I can use my favorite controller, my Xbox One or Series X controller. Like Xbox has always been my favorite controller. Always. The staggered sticks trump everything else. It's just, that's my preference. But it's been a really eye-opening thing. But that said, at the end of the day, all people should care about is just getting great games. Gamers anyway. Great games. It doesn't matter where you play these games, as long as you can play them and they're
it's
fun.
It's
they're
hardly
great.
about the plastic. And I know I went through the plastic phase pretty hard when Xbox One X launched, because the console was just better than any console around in every aspect. Everything it did was the best. And it was really cool to see Xbox really pour in investment. Like, here's your connection to the games, is a really great console that does everything better. But then as the time goes on, I'm like, well, I'm going to play here or there, wherever I do anyway. But it's really cool when I tell people it's about the games, like when Bethesda or id or any company studio is making a game, when I'm on the Xbox platform, I get the best version they can make on an Xbox console, or I could play it the best it can possibly be on my PC. And when you're talking about cloud gaming, you pay, I'll lower the number a little bit, but it's probably a little higher than this, but you pay about $1,500, FOnz. If you paid an entire generation of GeForce Now, you're paying half the price of buying that PC that you're playing on. You're playing on the cloud on a $4,000 rig with a 4090. And if you paid for that for 8 years of a console generation, you'd end up paying them $1,500 to play for 8 years on a $4,000 PC.
Yeah.
And that's a future that people are like, yeah, that's something I didn't see coming. Like the Sosa says, handheld thing's just a fad. It won't last. I mean,
It's
The next
not a
Nintendo-
fad. It's not a fad.
Yeah.
And Nintendo is proof of that. The Switch is proof of that. The Switch 2 will be further proof. I'm not a fan of handhelds myself, but I can see the I can see why people like them. The portability thing is really cool for those of you that like to take your games on the go. I'm not that type of guy. Like if I'm going anywhere, I usually like to experience wherever I'm going. Gaming, I leave at home. I know that's crazy to say as a gamer, but that's just the way it is to me. I like my big screen. I don't even like playing on my monitors. You know, it's the big screen experience I like with these games, specifically OLEDs. Like beautiful, just beautiful gaming. But I do not care for handhelds. But I can see that portability factor being a real thing for a lot of people. However, I will say in the case of the PlayStation Portal, we talked about this last week, folks. It's just a poor design. It's remote play. That's what it is. And Xbox has had that for years. This is nothing new. And I mean, they don't have their own Portal device per se, but you know what they have? They have these things, and you can use these just the same.
Yeah.
I mean, Colt, you put it perfectly when you said that they're basically using an old Android tablet looking thing with a sawed off, sawed in half.
It's a
DualSense.
12-year-old Android model with a great controller connected to it.
So
but,
I mean, that's what it is. And
but it's cheap. It's cheaper at launch.
It's
cheaper
cheap.
than Logitech G Cloud.
It's not cheap though, because
Isn't it $200?
You need a $500 PlayStation 5 as well.
Yeah.
So you gotta add that in too. But that's the PlayStation tax for you.
Hang on,
that's the PlayStation tax. But there's things out there like the what is it?
I got this for under 300. Okay.
Yeah. What is that called? This
is the Logitech G Cloud, and it's not like the most amazing device.
No,
but it has a browser. It has you can put your music apps on it. You can log into hotel Wi-Fi, Starbucks Wi-Fi. You can do cloud gaming.
Yeah. You can log in because it has a browser. That's the biggest thing they omit on the Portal.
I can at home or anywhere else. I can play through xCloud, or I can play GeForce Now on this. Like it has all those apps. When you load it up, it's got all that on there. So it has competitor. It's it's not locked down like a PlayStation Portal, but it also allows me to sit here in another room away from my Xbox and I can console stream, which is the only thing the Portal does. Is I can console stream to that. I can stream to my console and play any game that I have installed on my Xbox, or I can go to the other Xbox app and play anything that's in xCloud. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no. These devices I see they have a place. But
I don't love to do that. Like you were talking about it, like the screen's a decent size, like 9 inches or whatever, but I don't feel super comfortable playing a game where I need to be super reactive and super immersed. Like I can put my wireless earbuds in, like I can use any earbuds, PlayStation, you have to buy their $200, bespoke earbuds. I can use any of my earbuds, but I don't feel comfortable with that controller holding that thing in my lap.
You
like
just
doing anything.
You just said the word. You just said the word that it explains exactly why I don't like handheld gaming. Immersion. I don't get immersed in that tiny screen. And it's honestly for this old guys, you're getting older kids, you're going to find out your eyesight starts to go. And after you hit about 45, takes a real turn for the worse. These little devices are just too hard to read and really navigate. It sucks. But it's just that lack of immersion that I don't get there with the small screens of a handheld. But
there are certain games like you could play only certain types of games that just allow you to kind of go through and click this and go through that. Like I've played Fallout 76 on it at the hotel, and I can totally do everything I want to do because you do a lot of walking around and looting and getting into little combat here and there and exploring things. And with the earbuds in, like you get a really great experience, but I prefer to sit on the couch with a controller that I know that I'm really good on.
Same.
But it's fine. But
No,
but handhelds are really popular, and as tech evolves, those handhelds get more powerful without being so thick, and they're going that technology is going to be right in your next smart TV in the next 5 years, where you'll be able to just play games natively on a TV. And I talked to Hargeet Chani about that a lot. He's a big tech guy. He works in a big IT field for his job, and he's like, the processor in your phone, Colt, he goes, it's more powerful than a Series S. And I'm like, it is? He goes, yeah, it doesn't have the GPU that's as powerful, but he goes, imagine that in the back of the next OLED from LG. He goes, you could play native Xbox games on that thing and it would fit in there.
That'd be crazy. Anyway. Yeah. Gustavo Machado has a great point, and I really want to bring this up because you hit the nail on the head. He says, games offer different experiences. Not all games are about immersion. I agree with you. Some games don't fit to handhelds. They don't fit the handheld model to me because of the immersion and screen size. Yeah. And that's exactly why the Switch is such a hit, because most of Nintendo's games aren't about immersion at all. They're about fun. These, Mario's, just games that don't really bring you into that world. So I totally see why a lot of people love Switch, the Switch for those types of games. Great point. I'm glad you said that. But what I want to talk about right now here, a little bit on is because it's a big topic and it keeps going on. I talked a little bit about this last week, Colt. The Xbox tax. A lot of people are talking about this Xbox tax, and I'm of two minds on this thing. Like I can definitely say that I see some media bias in where there's articles written about Xbox in a negative light, but the same type of article is written about PlayStation doing the same type of thing, and it's written in a positive light. We've seen all this stuff. This is facts. Like this is not made up stuff. We've seen these kinds of things before. But this, I think, is just something that a lot of, I think just we as human beings, we like to just, we like to just talk about things and pile on things. And in this case with Xbox, and there's reasons for it behind it, of course, but I think there's a lot of things that we like to do sometimes that it's just like we like to band together and do things as people, and like join a club or join, in this case, a fanboy nation. Like you're either a pony or you're an Xbot, and you like to just dogpile and stuff, right? That's I see that happening all the time, right? Yeah. But I do see certain things where media bias is a thing in certain cases and stuff, but also I don't think it's as big as people are letting on. Like I don't think it's soul crushing to Xbox, because it's Xbox. If you look at what they've done in the past 10 years, and we're going to go over some of this, Colt, we have not really seen a lot of games that come out of Xbox that achieve the same quality as, and I'm going to say it, and it's going to hurt a lot of people out there, that achieve the same quality as a lot of Sony games do. And that's just a fact. Yeah. I've seen that. And I think it's their own doing as to why these media outlets dogpile on Xbox. I also do see the fact that the media, some in any way, and I touched on this last week, I think that they're afraid to really go talk negatively about certain games when they review games because they don't want to get blacklisted. There has been proof of that.
Hold on. We have to cover that before that will get buried and we'll never get back to it. I wholeheartedly believe in what you just said, that PlayStation exclusives or PlayStation coverage for hardware,
first party games,
is exclusives. PlayStation exclusives or first party or PlayStation hardware is so important for coverage, monetize traffic on sites, channels, or whatever. it is so important that they cannot afford, the media sites cannot afford to be blacklisted. Now, I don't 100% believe that PlayStation will blacklist certain groups for criticizing PlayStation, but we've seen big outlets or big content creators get left out of a big game like Spider-Man 2 review or a PlayStation hardware review because in the past they haven't pleased enough. And I've seen Xbox do it as well. Here's the thing. I sound like Mag. Here's the thing. You cannot afford to lose out on a big reveal for a PlayStation product. And so staying in the good graces of PlayStation only serves to bring you more money, more traffic, and more revenue from all of the clicks because PlayStation is so popular. It is where the majority of the diehard gaming community is centered around. And we'll get into that later.
Colt, I've talked about that. I said this last week too. I've read reviews on certain PlayStation exclusive games that sounded very negative in the review, but at the end of the end, they would score it at least an 8 out of 10.
I didn't know you were going that direction, FOnz.
I'm like, why? I just read your review and you were pretty negative, but you're giving it an 8 out of 10.
Case in point, the PlayStation Portal, it was like, this doesn't do this, doesn't do this. Why did they do this? What was their reasoning for this? Why doesn't it have this feature? This doesn't work very well. This is nice, 8 out of 10. Yeah. And I've heard game reviews where they say, you know, Peter Parker is so annoying. Miles Morales doesn't really, the MJ does this, blah, blah. This is all the same. This is 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's
and
weird.
you know, I've done some of that. Some of those things don't add up to make you lower your score. And I don't want to sound conspiracy because when it comes to the Xbox tax, I'm not the conspiracy guy. Sorry, and some people are already starting to learn that. But you have to understand that if you're a site, because I respect a ton of these sites that may come into this conversation, but if you're a site called JLY, jellygames.com or whatever they are. Okay. And you have some critical reviews and then the PlayStation Portal comes out and you get skipped over because PlayStation's like, we want to give it to all these really great, trustworthy sites or whatever it is. And you get skipped over. It's a big gut punch. Like SkillUp got left out of, was it the Spider-Man 2 review? And I know he was probably like, sorry guys, sorry audience, I can't do that. But I know behind the scenes, SkillUp's probably thinking, I am losing out on 1 million views guaranteed by not having that early access to that PlayStation game. And it's like, man, all I did was in the past, I've just kept it 100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been other reviewers that have stated the same thing, that they've gotten blacklisted and because they've given poor reviews.
And I don't think
poor
that
scores
even really correlates with the Xbox tax. That's just the reality of getting access to. We can just know a little bit that Xbox and PlayStation.
But I think more so, I think more so, you have to focus on what both companies have brought us. And there's one thing you can say. I mean, you can talk all the crap you want if you're, you know, a guy who feels that you don't like PlayStation games because they're movies or whatever, or walking simulators, whatever you may feel. I personally love a lot of their games. I love that style of game myself, but you can't deny the fact that they do bring out quality products. Now, Spider-Man 2 is kind of a caveat because it was the first time that I personally experienced a lot of bugs in a first-party PlayStation game as of late, like a ton of bugs at the middle to the end of the game. Like I was running into a lot of things. I was like, wow, this is weird. I mean, Peter's head being cut off or a floating head, stuff like that. It made no sense. I was like, I'm not used to this with PlayStation. Usually they bring you a level of quality, but I'm talking, when I say a level of quality, it's more about the game itself. And usually it's their story, their pacing, the visuals, the gameplay. It's usually a quality product. When you look at the Xbox side, and I've seen somebody say in the chat earlier, I forgot who said it, but they said if you add up all the scores, it's nearly the same, or it's about the same between all the PlayStation exclusives and Xbox exclusives. However, what you're looking at is a lot of smaller type games compared to much bigger games on the Sony side as well. There's more AAA games they're putting out over there and more high quality games, I would say, than say your indie games that like your Pentiments and you know.
It's obvious over the past 10 years, PlayStation's been putting out big blockbuster, big perception, like they're just bigger games.
And that's what resonates
over the past
with people.
25 years. And Xbox has not over the past 10 years, with very few exceptions. Some of the big games Xbox did put out over the past 10 years, over the past few years, really, they all had a caveat to them. Like, oh, this didn't have enough of multiplayer, or this wasn't good enough, or this wasn't great enough.
Yeah.
And I think those complaints are deserved.
I think you need to look at things like, okay, so Hi-Fi Rush, for example, great exclusive game for Xbox, highly acclaimed.
Yep.
But it was still on a much smaller scale. I'm sorry, but if you compare Hi-Fi Rush to Spider-Man 2, the mass appeal just isn't there for Hi-Fi Rush like it is with a Spider-Man 2.
There's Sea of Stars to
not nearly as much. So of course you're going to get more. You're going to get more clicks, more viewership if you do content or push content based on Spider-Man 2, not Hi-Fi Rush. And that is where I think a lot of people fault with this whole Xbox tax thing is. It's like the levels of these games, the quality of these games and everything. It's just it's another level for PlayStation, and that's why they're talked about more. That's why they're pushed more. That's why they tag the whole positive spin on it with PlayStation, because it's the popular brand. It's what everybody likes. It's what everybody talks about. It's the casual market's console. That's why they push that so much. I think the dogpiling I was trying to talk about earlier with Xbox is because those kind of clicks they're getting, they're at least getting some engagement with Xbox news or Xbox games by going negative, because you're really not going to push these smaller games to the mass casual audience. They're not going to want to read about Hi-Fi Rush. They're just not. It's not the same. That's what I'm getting at. And I think that a lot of people think, oh, there's this Xbox tax and it's just because it's an Xbox game, it's hated. No, I mean, I'm sorry. They're not pushing the type of quality out. Aside from a few games, there's always like Forza Horizon games are always really high quality, great little, great racing games. You've got the Gears franchise which I believe, and I've said this before, is just as high quality as anything PlayStation puts out. I think 100%. The Gears franchise is amazing. But how many do we get? Once every 8 years? I mean, I don't know. There's only
been 5 mainline Gears games.
But I mean, I'm just saying, we don't get many Gears games, and it's only one franchise, so you don't see it that often. And I think that is their highest quality game right there. If you were to compare anything to a PlayStation game, Gears franchise would be the games. Those would be the ones.
Per 21 says, so the real Xbox tax is SEO. No, I mean, like I said, it's such a really good point Tim makes, but no, I got to take the floor for a minute on this. The PlayStation has been delivering on its expectations of big blockbuster games for 25 years without much more than 1 year of a space gap. Xbox for 2013 to 2023 has mostly been in the hole for providing what they were supposed to provide that they did in the first half of their career. So PlayStation's never floundered. So you're looking at games media journalists who are my age and younger, who grew up around a PlayStation that never stopped delivering.
Yeah. Now,
while you're saying they grew up in the 360 era, journalists who are probably a little bit younger than me, they cut their teeth playing PlayStation games while Xbox was pushing the Kinect and getting into the Xbox One generation. And when you're young and in your early 20s, or maybe you're just a teenager and getting into the business to go to college soon to get into games journalism, you grow up literally watching Xbox flounder with zero funding from Microsoft. And you sit back and you wonder, it's like, what are they doing over there?
Yeah.
So the games journalists, for the most part, over the past 10 years, have watched everybody, Nintendo, Ubisoft, PlayStation, EA, Take-Two, all these people bring out amazing games and just push through, while Xbox struggles to put out third-party games from studios they don't own and IPs they no longer own anymore. So you can understand that the media is allowed to have a bias. They're allowed to have a preference that, you know what, I don't really like Xbox. And you'll hear, like on IGN, you'll hear people, big prominent people from IGN or Kind of Funny Games say, PlayStation is the best gaming platform, period. They'll say things like that in public. They'll stand on that rock. They'll put their sword down and make that statement because they grew up in a platform that always delivered. Yeah. Now, the funny part about this, FOnz, is Xbox is about to totally trounce what PlayStation has on offer with way more games, more studios, way better flexibility and value, where you can play games so much cheaper or way better.
Oh, that's offer. Something I will not argue that the Xbox has the value. They have the value there.
Yep.
And it's amazing what you can get on Game Pass and stuff. But at the same time, like, and I have to go to Abdel114's comment here. He said, FOnz, during Redfall, the launch of Redfall, I said that I basically said on RDX that Microsoft never put out a good game as good as even Days Gone. Here's what I said. I said it never put out a game as good as Days Gone since the Gears 5. Since Gears 5. Gears 5. Gears 5 is an incredible game. I don't say it's not, but I stand on that.
You're saying I don't think basically for the past 3 years, which is 2020.
Past 3 years, I don't see any game that has come out that is even as good as Days Gone. And the reason why I use Days Gone is because that's the one that didn't
like
really
lowest first-party game.
Yeah, it's their lowest first-party game over there. But you know what? It was an incredible experience to me. I enjoyed Days Gone. Your comment is
undisputed if you say outside of the racing genre or outside of like a niche. Well, I don't think racing games are niche.
Well, I think racing games are niche. I think racing games are niche.
Adventure. You don't have to say that, but Xbox has yet to put out something better than Days Gone over the past 3 years that is like not a racing game or not. I mean, you know, Halo Infinite's way higher rated and is way more popular.
You know what I just noticed? I'm sorry to interrupt, but my program now holds super chats for me automatically.
Oh,
that's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. I just saw one. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, but it just blew me away.
I mean, it does sound kind of asinine to say they haven't put out something as great as Days Gone. You and I both love that game, but over the past 3 years, like
what have they put out? What have they put out? That's
Psychonauts 2, Flight Sim,
Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 is a great game, fantastic game, but I don't see that game. I look at it as more of an indie title. Like I look at it as more of a smaller title.
Studio.
I'm talking about a blockbuster
Flight Sim,
game.
Psychonauts 2, Forza Horizon 5, and Halo Infinite are like their highest.
Halo Infinite doesn't even.
Games.
I like Halo Infinite, but it doesn't. It's not as good as Days Gone, in my opinion. It's not.
I scored Halo Infinite way higher, but I don't even mess with the multiplayer. So all those complaints.
I'm not talking about the multiplayer. I'm just talking about the campaign itself. I thought it was a good campaign. I thought the story was decent. It was a good campaign, but I had way more fun playing Days Gone. Way more fun. I put in a lot of time in Days Gone, clearing out all the zombies and stuff.
I really enjoyed Days Gone, but that game can be pretty stressful too.
It was good.
It was good.
But no, and I used that one specifically because it's the lowest rated PlayStation game. Exclusive.
Well, let's ask your chat, because I think a lot of people conflate the media bias that is the tax, and I guess media bias would push towards a tax. So you have to quantify it by saying the tax is 5 to 10 points out of 100, meaning that if it's time to review Starfield, that the media as a whole is automatically going to dock it 5 to 10 points because the Xbox tax, because they feel like Xbox isn't good enough and they don't deserve 8s or 9s. But the funny thing is, with my infographic, the media collectively has scored Xbox first-party titles on par. Actually, it was a slight percentage better than PlayStation this generation until Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
Xbox is at an 80%, PlayStation is at an 82%. So tell me where the Xbox tax is, where Xbox hasn't put out any big budget games outside of their standard flagship titles, and
Let's be
they're
honest.
still on par with PlayStation for the most
I
part.
mean, and I'm going to put it out there. This Xbox tax talk only came about because Starfield got a 7 from IGN. This is
I think
why
it came out because of the Game of the Awards.
okay, but because Starfield was snubbed, and it goes back to the 7 at IGN because let's talk about it, Colt. Most of these reviewers that gave poor scores are the ones who voted for these games in the first place. Like, of course, they're not going to nominate Starfield for Game of the Year. I think it was stupid to even think that it would be nominated at this point. Like, after you saw the review scores, you should have known. And
it's simply this.
Who cares what IGN thinks of Starfield? If you like Starfield, great. Who cares what people think? I love Starfield.
Show me an 85.
But it's not a perfect game.
Show me an 85 out of 100 that got nominated for Game of the Year in that list of only 6 games. And I know the score doesn't say everything, but FOnz said it perfectly. For the most part, almost everyone that threw in their review for Starfield, putting it at a collective 85, because it's at 85 on OpenCritic.
Yeah, which is good.
Those people are almost all the same people that voted for Game of the Year nominations. And when you only have 6 slots, one of the metrics they're going to go with is what were the highest rated games that we played and reviewed this year. And then Baldur's Gate comes out, Spider-Man comes out, which is a 91 or 92. Yeah. It's and Abdel says Ghost of Tsushima was an 83 and got nominated. Yeah, but Ghost of Tsushima didn't come out the same year as Baldur's Gate or Spider-Man 2 or Alan Wake 2. That's a big difference. Yeah. Because Death Stranding also, I think Death Stranding had an 84 or an 82 and also got nominated for Game of the Year. So
look,
what comes out.
As much as I love Starfield, I told you, Colt, if I had played Baldur's Gate 3, both are RPGs. If I had played Baldur's Gate 3 before I played Starfield, I would have been nitpicking Starfield's RPG mechanics to death. And the lack of choices in that game. Because I'll say this. I think Starfield is a great game. I don't love it. I don't say it's bad in any way. However, it's missing a lot of features that I feel even other Bethesda games had. And I think that Bethesda, I don't even think it's the best Bethesda game. I don't even have it in my top 4 Bethesda games of all time. That's how much Starfield was lacking in an RPG. I'm sorry, but I put ahead. There's Fallouts there, and there's even my favorite, Oblivion. Oblivion is my favorite all-time Bethesda game.
Funny enough, I put Fallout 4 ahead of Starfield, and you and I were talking about this last night about how one of my major problems with Starfield is the bacon cheeseburger chewiness, that satisfying bite every time you play it. It's kind of missing. And it's very painfully obvious.
It's lack of
You and I were talking about how you
That's
can't build your own fort. Like, you drop down a simple hab and a couple hallways, and you just cannot build your outpost at all. And oh my gosh, I spent 40 hours unlocking every ability to be able to make something great. And I'm looking at my homestead. I'm like,
I'm kind of ashamed.
Man, this could be so much cooler. When you and I talked about how
in Fallout 4,
like when you were a kid, you'd grab pallets, big piece of cardboard, and you hobble together the most amazing fort in your backyard. And you do that in Fallout 4, and they robbed us of that. For if you don't have to do it, if you don't want to.
No,
but I would have put another 100 hours into Starfield.
Yeah, I would have definitely put another 50 hours into it, as I did with Fallout 4. I put in at least 50 hours of just base building alone.
I'd say just give me floor tiles, wall tiles, and ceiling tiles, and then whatever the variations of that come with, and then I'd be fine. I understand that stuff has to look like it could survive on an extreme planet base, but anyway.
No, I'm not sitting here to rag on Starfield, but my point is, it really, if you look at the nominees and stuff, yes, you could omit a couple of those, in my opinion, for Starfield. You can. You can.
I just didn't hear much buzz about.
But those people that reviewed the game,
Super Mario Wonder is really good, but I just don't hear all that buzz about it from the general public. I don't really hear people talking about or sharing clips, and I know it scored really well. And I feel like the Tears of the Kingdom game was all everyone talked about for a month, and then it just died. It's just weird.
No,
Fine.
It is, but you know what? Oh well, I just look at the Game of the Year awards and I laugh at a couple of those nominations, and I feel that Starfield.
I mean, which ones would you kick out?
Oh, for sure, right off the bat, Spider-Man 2. I don't think it deserves to be there. I think, especially, what makes me laugh even more, moreover, is the nomination for that game with best narrative. Because the narrative to me is horrible. It's not good at all. It's not enjoyable. Like I love Craven's story. Craven's story is great, but the dialogue between Peter and Mary Jane is just.
By the time he got to Craven, I didn't even care about him.
Dude, there's a scene in there, and I kind of teased this last week. I wish I could just tell you guys, but if you don't care about it, go look it up. Look at the scene between Peter and Mary Jane. God, I can't even say that because it spoils the game.
You mean toward the end?
Yeah, and the stuff that she tells him is so cringe-inducing. Is so terrible, and I like it's horrible. It
was like a big
writing.
CW superhero show.
It was so bad. So I would completely omit Spider-Man 2. And I had a fun time playing the game. The game itself is fun. The combat is fun. When you have to play as Mary Jane, not so much. I think that is not fun at all. I hate playing as Mary Jane. But playing as Peter, playing as Miles.
Watch Dogs Legions.
And I would omit Resident Evil 4. I don't think it needs to be there.
I don't think so either.
Because nothing has truly changed up in that game. I mean, narratively,
they changed a lot.
No.
The game's really great.
No. I know they made this game, from scratch or whatever. But as a whole, it's the same narrative. It's the same game essentially. I don't think it needs to be there. I don't think Resident Evil 4 already had its time. Like remasters to me should have their own category in the Game of the Year awards. I think they should have their own category. Best remaster or remake. Remaster or remake. Because it seems just like Hollywood these days, it seems like the industry is forgetting how to make new IP. It just make something new. And
I mean, they're just not doing well. The new movies the new ideas are not doing very well.
Well, whose fault is that? I mean, make the game fun. I don't know. Like, well, you're looking at. I mean, I could look at games like Alan Wake 2 and think, okay, that's a remake, but or no, a new game to that series, but it's boring. Yeah, it's boring to me.
There were a bunch of new IPs this year that fell flat that no one played. Evil West, that might have been last year, and then there was another one like Focus Entertainment put out a couple of games. There was that one that came out in the summer that just got 6 out of 10 that looked really cool. It was like kind of a Horizon Zero Dawn type game. What was it called, chat?
Horizon Zero Dawn type game.
It was made by Focus Entertainment as a third-person character game where you could run and jump really fast, and you could kind of like I think you could like skid on the sand or something. I can't remember. It was somebody will remember. Yeah, Immortals of Avium is another one, another new IP. I've been trying to play it. I don't like it at all. I know people like it, but I'm like, Atlas Fallen. Thank you, Abdel. Yeah, Atlas Fallen, Immortals of Avian. Dead Island 2 is great, but it's a sequel. There's just been all these new franchises, and I think the games media as a whole looks back and goes, I don't know about this, because PlayStation's been doing outside of Returnal is the 17th sequel and then remastering those newer franchises they put out that are already established from PS4. Yeah. You look at the PlayStation 5 generation open critic list I made up, and it's like 70% of them are remasters or remakes. So that's where they get all their big AAA listing from. So I don't know.
Check this out. This is kind of funny. I pulled up one
You're
of my
like
old bases.
dressing up your
from-
character.
I pulled up one of my own old videos of the bases I created in Fallout 4.
Oh, you're putting it up on the screen?
Yeah, I put it up there.
Oh my gosh.
The graphics were just bad back then.
Well,
this is one of my bases.
yeah, you were really. This is a 480p or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's.
Oh, you built right in Sanctuary. How the heck did you get that much? How'd you get that much stuff in Sanctuary?
Dude, I'm telling you, I built a bunch of tunnels in the sky, man.
Okay, are you going to walk through this thing?
Yeah. So this is what, man. How many years ago was this? This is my first gaming channel.
It was 8 years ago.
And I didn't talk or anything on it. I just showed some game clips. This was.
Did you have to build something under, or they let you float some of those hallways?
No, they let me just build off the structures that were there. And
they let you just connect them on. Yeah, because I watched the video in Starfield. You have to put something on the ground and then I got a
deck here. Look at that. I got a deck overlooking the lake. Look. And then I got a guard up there.
Better than people give it credit for. People like to say it's the worst Fallout, but it's really, really great.
No, it's Fallout 4, not Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate was on screen, but this is Fallout 4.
Yeah, you have to kind of click the live button if you're not caught up.
In the old, man, this was on the 360, I believe. No, actually, I was playing on the PlayStation 3.
You don't have a lot of like furniture and decorations in
No.
This one that really tanks your building a lot.
This one, but I just had tunnels everywhere up in the air, and they just all connected to every to the rooftops and everything in the sanctuary. It was cool.
Another great thing about this compared to Starfield is the allowance to build a structure takes so few resources. In Starfield, they really just beat you into the ground by making you just have tons of aluminum and stuff.
But I just wish you could build stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Like in Starfield, this is what I was hoping for. The shipbuilding in Starfield was a lot of fun. I had a great time with that.
Did a good job with that.
But I just, and we talked about this a little bit last night about the whole base building in Starfield. It just didn't feel like it was lived in. Like it didn't feel homey at all. It just felt like just weird structure or silos. Just it didn't feel like a home. And I wanted the base to feel like homey in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I've got rooms decorated kind of by theme in Starfield, and it's kind of cool, but they don't give you any reason to be there. Like here, you can get attacked by super mutants, and you can drop all your supplies here, and you can work from them from here. And yeah, it's like it was really integrated properly.
Yeah, so I had to run over roofs and stuff.
Really cool to see. You told me about this, but I never.
But you see how big it is? It's massive. The thing is massively huge, man.
Do you have that clip still?
Oh man, that thing is massively huge.
Yeah, it's massively huge.
Yeah, it's very cool. Gosh, how did you record this?
Oh, dude, I think it was through the PlayStation capture card thing.
Oh yeah, because you can record longer. 3. I can't remember in the early days of the Xbox One.
It was a 720
for an hour,
720p, glorious 720p.
Oh, and it's the lowest bit rate of all time.
Oh, it's horrible. It's all pixelated, even on my end. Like watching it in full screen.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on your program here.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
It's a big one. And
Dorian Gray says Starfield mods will change that. Well, hurry up and get that Creator Club and the mods on console.
Well, that's the thing. Like you shouldn't have to wait for mods. Like I know people say that all the time, just wait for the mod. And it's like, the game should have things that we want in the game. Like this is a Bethesda game that I just showed with base building, and it's fun. It is what it is. It's fun. And the other one here that I had was, I think the red rocket thing. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Everybody built a base on that.
I did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think they kind of wanted you to, because that opening screen had your power armor in the garage. But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I built around there, and I had stairs going up to the overhang where I built on top of the overhang.
There's mine right there.
Well, I'll go back to. Yeah. And then underneath where the gas pumps were, I had a line of 8. If anybody's watched really close on my channel, I have clips of it, but I had a line of like 8 power armors, like all lined up in 2 rows, and you could walk between them. And the power armors, I would just collect them. Oh, there's power armor, and I'd fast travel back and just park it.
Yeah, no, great. A lot of people rag on Fallout 4, and I know personally, even for me, I think it's I say worst one out of the series, but it's still a lot of fun and a great game. I loved all the Fallouts. New Vegas is my favorite, but of course that isn't really Bethesda who built that. That's Obsidian, another Xbox developer.
4 is way more enjoyable to play if you go back and play 3. 3 was really great at the time. But
yeah, it was amazing at the time.
Trust me, Fallout 4 still holds up really well, especially with FPS boost on your Series X. Like, it's incredible.
Now, between these 2 bases that I showed here, I completely maxed out the memory system in the console, and it would not allow me to build a single thing more. It says, sorry, you're tapped out.
Yeah, it's got a meter at the top.
And
I know a lot of people don't love base building. They don't care. They never touched it. But for Bethesda, it's something they should have really fleshed out for Starfield.
It's fun. It's to me, it's fun to do things like that. That's like, I love character creators and stuff like that we get in these games. It's always a lot of fun to make your own character and design them, or he or she, from the ground up. I don't know who the lady is standing in my base, but she's creeping me out, man. She's just like, she's everywhere.
Well, my son was like 4 or 5, and he would sit with me for hours while I built a massive.
I see on my magazine rack. Huge. I had a magazine rack there.
Little 5-year-old, he would sit there and tell me, put this over here, you should do this, and we just sat together while I controlled and built everything, and yeah, it was massively huge.
Yeah, but going back to the old Xbox tax, like, I understand what people see in the media, and I do see the bias there sometimes with the articles written glowing about PlayStation. When Xbox does the same thing, it's negative. I see that kind of stuff, but as people, we're all just kind of we're biased. We have our own preferences. And, when we say back in the day, when we used to say all the time, oh, it's cool to rag on Xbox, we kind of mean that. Like a lot of people felt that it was a cool thing to do. That's what a lot of the fanboys do. And they feel like it's like they're part of a team, Well,
can you go back to that tribalistic Radar article that you showed in the opening of the show?
Yeah. Gaming Bolt. It was Gaming Bolt.
Gaming Bolt. Yeah. They have the same logo, I swear.
Starfield could be in trouble as player numbers plummet. Like, it's so stupid.
So what you're looking at here is reader service. And I'm going to reiterate this again for you guys. This is part of what you believe is the Xbox tax. What Gaming Bolt is doing here is Starfield is a trending topic, and it has been all year. If you look on Google Trends, Starfield is miles higher than Spider-Man 2 or the phrase Spider-Man. Okay. So you've got reader service here. You're talking about Starfield, which is SEO heavy. You're talking about Xbox, which is always in the conversation. Sometimes more than PlayStation. It's crazy. And Gaming Bolt knows that the majority of their fans are going to be PlayStation leaning. So you say Starfield's in trouble as numbers plummet. PlayStation diehards get to dogpile on that and celebrate the failure of Xbox. And then, so you get all those clicks that generate revenue and monetization inside of Twitter, which now has been yanked from them because of this. And you get all of your site traffic. And then you get all the Xbox diehard fans, which number in the millions, that will come to defense and drive engagement. So it's a win-win for Gaming Bolt to be an a-hole and dogpile on Starfield when it has nothing to do with player counts plummeting. The game offers you, on average, 80 hours of like the full experience. And the game has been out, FOnz, for almost 2,000 hours. Okay? So if I didn't do the math on what like wakeable gaming hours were available for Starfield, but it is probably it's been out 4 times longer than you should be playing it. And they're talking about it plummeting. Now there are single player games that do get more engagement. Like Baldur's Gate has had a staggered release, so it's got more legs. It also has co-op, which gives it more legs. And then multiplayer games obviously have more legs. So the readers gave context, yanked their ability to make money off of that tweet on Twitter. And it's a win-win. It's reader service. You can't lose because you're going to bring both sides in to fight and give you engagement.
Jason Mack says, FOnz, do you like the Western RPGs Sony makes? Which one are those?
None.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at this old channel while you were talking there. I was listening to you, by the way, but as I'm looking at this old channel that I had, I was uploading clips to this channel and then using this as like a way to get the clips for my other YouTube channel. So I would upload game clips to this channel
directly from the studio,
yeah, and then move it over to the whatever program I was using to do my videos. God, what a process! That was horrible.
It was. I'll do one even better for you. I deleted about 30 videos from my channel that were all playthrough 1, playthrough 2, playthrough 3 of Fallout 4. What I would do is I would get up in the morning before work, load up Twitch, stream to no one so that I could grab the video on demand before I left.
Wow.
Because that was a way to record long form, because back then I didn't know the concept of plugging in a USB drive, hitting record at full quality. I didn't even know, maybe that wasn't a thing on the Xbox.
No, I don't think it was at the time. And I think that's why we did archaic things such as this. So
I would record Fallout 4 on Twitch to no one at 6 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning. I would play with my headset on because I could talk while I was playing. And I was like, okay, let's go over here. And I would do like a Let's Play that I used to love, watching people do that. And then I would download the video on demand at the worst quality. It was like 720p, 30 frames, the lowest bit rate possible. And then I would cut that and re-render it and put it on my channel. And then I end up deleting them because they looked so horrid. They looked like you were looking at 240p. But anyway, that's what we used to do.
That's what we had to do. I got a lot of dislikes today from I guess talking ill of Xbox to Xbox fans.
Ill, though.
And I'm not really, because I mean, I just look at what they've done since, like, let's talk about the Xbox One generation as a whole. Like, what did we really get from there? I mean, besides the Gears and Forza,
they didn't make any games for the Xbox One. Like, their most prominent games were not made by them outside of Forza Horizon
But you do see that's where I think that the media bias all started, because Xbox went from this high and mighty studio or company with great games they were making and stuff back in the 360 days to the Xbox One generation, where they started it off really badly, and then they had to get rid of that stigma of the whole Don Matrick thing, that fiasco and stuff. But the Xbox One generation really lacked in making new IP. There was really nothing new that was really a blockbuster-ish.
They had 4 Forza Horizon games that did really well that they didn't own Playground Games back then.
Yeah. And
then they put out 2 Gears games, and then they put out Quantum Break, Recore, Rise in a Row. And I wrote an entire video about this Xbox tax, and it's 3.5 pages of me talking about this one point that I'm going to make that's so easy to make.
Okay. You
have to understand that the Xbox tax derives from Xbox not going above and beyond, over the brim of the coffee mug, to make an incredibly amazing caveat-free gaming service. And they haven't delivered that. And so you have to wonder, that tax is really on a multi-trillion-dollar company to push and do better. And for Phil and his team to say, no, Arcane, you're not putting out Redfall this May. We're putting our foot down. We own you now. We've owned you for a year. Redfall's not coming out like that. You're going to kill us. And they didn't. They sat back and like, well, we got to let them do their thing. And then I'll tell you what, that week after, they were not they were not happy with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because you constantly had so much negativity surrounding its IP that these guys that already had bias against Xbox in the media, they dogpiled on it. They were like, "Oh, let's jump at him. Redfall sucks. Let's go. Let's hit him hard."
Yeah.
And this is what happens. And again, it's not like I think Abdel asked earlier, do you think Xbox with 40 studios is the same as Xbox with 4? Of course not. Of course not. And we're already seeing a change in the way of games. To me, Starfield is a big game for them, and it's a high, it's a quality game that is going to be a force for them. It started off really good, and it's still a really good game, but I'm saying there could be DLCs. The next iteration of the game could be even better. They could add some of the stuff that we're complaining about they're lacking in the game that they have in other games. Like inventory management was the biggest thing that I didn't like, and you as well, Colt.
Stuff is way too heavy. Yeah. And
so
too much stuff that you don't even use at all.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff, they can fix later on, but overall, still good quality. We've got games in the future coming that are really good, great games. But yeah, it's all about that perceived notion of Xbox just not having great games or a new IP at all that really has that stigma on them that they suck. But again, with 40 studios,
Xbox has good games. They've given them really high marks for their first party studio.
I know, but then again, like we said, you have to look at some of those smaller titles and say, is that really going to push the audience, the casual market, to come look at their articles and stuff, to click on them and to get them that revenue? No, it's not. Microsoft needs more big blockbuster games for them to push their articles and stuff, and they need to be more glowing and whatever. But right now, it's just all about negativity. But that's going to change. I think it'll change.
And there also needs to be Xbox games. Like every game that Xbox puts out, they have self-induced caveats where it's like, this is really great, but every game that's been that way with their biggest titles.
You've got games coming that are on the horizon for Xbox right now, from great development studios. We know they're working on Gear 6, the Coalition. That is going to be a phenomenal game. I'm really hyped for that. You've also got Obsidian, who I am really high on. I think Obsidian is one of their best, if not the best developer they have. I love Obsidian games. And of course, they have their game Avowed. And these are right around the corner. Like, you could think to the other side, looking at PlayStation, and the only game that comes to mind that's coming is Wolverine. And that's 2025.
Right. So,
I mean, who's in worse shape here when it comes to what game is coming out next for who? And because we really don't know anything with PlayStation. I have a sneaky feeling that PlayStation is going to have to just buy more exclusive rights for multi-plat studios to fix that for next year. I think they're going to have to use it. Yeah,
they've always done that. They've always.
I think they're going to have to do that. Continue
studios that they don't run.
But is that sustainable, Colt?
Is it sustainable?
Is it sustainable for them to keep having to buy rights to these multi-plat games?
Some of the financial stuff that we've been hearing about lately really talks about or starts to tell the story about how much money Microsoft has spent for Xbox, but no one talks about how much money Sony and PlayStation have spent for their gaming platform, like to put money into KOTOR, a licensed game, or Silent Hill 2. And putting all this money into these games to get these exclusive to PlayStation is a lot of money. And people always say Xbox has to buy everything to compete. Well, PlayStation has been buying almost everything just for a long time.
Yeah, look at Final Fantasy. That's a big case right there. Final Fantasy. They've been buying their, most of their games over there at Square Enix.
They kind of bought that franchise out. But what would happen, FOnz, if PlayStation was receiving almost no first-party funding from Sony for 4 years? Because this is what happened to Xbox in 2014. From 2014 to 2018, Terry Myerson and the leadership at Microsoft were basically saying, let's just wait it out and just let Xbox die of natural causes. And then Phil took over a year or two later, and Phil probably fought for 2-3 years behind the scenes that we never heard that we're going to acquire some first-party studios.
Hold up, Colt. Face 23 BKNY says PlayStation games next year. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, not PlayStation first party. MLB The Show, first party, sure. Helldivers 2, not first party. Stellar Blade, not first party. Rise of Ronin, not first party.
Stellar Blade is being fully published by PlayStation, but yeah, they just bought that game when it was almost done. That's basically like saying Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is not an Xbox game.
Yeah.
Well, or Redfall or Starfield are not an Xbox game.
Yeah, it's just, I'm talking strictly from their first party studios. Like, what do they have coming? We don't know. MLB we see every year.
First party. That's it.
What'd you say?
And MLB. Yeah. And I love MLB.
Yeah. What's the other one you said?
Concord is coming to 2024, according to them in the showcase. But
oh, that's the one where we didn't see anything in the trailer. It was just
is the space hamburger. But
yeah, okay.
PlayStation still has a really good 2024. And so does Xbox. Like they're both neck and neck. Like they have it's just when you look at the output.
I'm just talking about I'm not saying they're going to do bad in 2024. That's not what I'm saying. So don't take that and run with it. What I was saying is I'm pointing out first party is lacking. It's lacking right now. Yeah. And yeah, they don't have 40 studios, but they do have some of the best studios out there. And we don't know what some of them are creating. I assume, I'm not going to be naive and say, oh, yeah, they're not doing anything. They're just sitting in the back room going, I don't know what to do today. What do you want to order?
FOnz is talking about FOnz is talking about their first-party studios.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's all.
Those are all first-party published, which, in my opinion, count as first-party games. But we're talking about the de facto first-party studios that PlayStation owns. They have been MIA for a long time.
Yeah,
but they'll have stuff to announce at the end of the year. Or
like Naughty Dog. Right now, all we're getting from them is remasters, remakes of remasters, and I'm sick of it. It's like put out a new IP, like really work and focus on that, and forget the remasters. Who needed a remaster of The Last of Us, let alone The Last of Us Part 2? None of us are asking for that.
Yeah.
It already looks incredible on your PlayStation 5. Like, why do you need that? To me, I don't know. It's obviously a cash grab. I'm over here stuttering because I can't even think right now. But yeah, but it's just a cash grab to me. It's just a way for them to make more money. And I get it. They want to make money, but the remasters and all this stuff to me just it doesn't excite me, Colt. I don't get excited by any of these remakes and remasters. Like if they told me they were remaking a really, really old game that I loved, then I'd feel some way about it. I might say that's great.
That's the problem. They're like, you bots out here, we're okay with Skyrim being remastered for the 50th time. It's like, no, we made fun of that for every year.
Exactly.
We made fun of that. It was a joke and a meme within itself. It's like, well, what about Grand Theft Auto 5? It's like, it was literally held off from backward compatibility. They made an Xbox and PS4 version because you couldn't play it at that time. There was no back compat at that time. And then they remastered it again. I made fun of that. But the problem is with PlayStation is they're literally remastering 3-year-old games and people are laughing at it. Today, someone showed me that the Last of Us Part 2 remaster trailer on PlayStation's account had 72,000 thumbs up and 116,000 thumbs down.
Wow. That's
so people are laughing at, oh my gosh, you're remastering again. I know it's $10, but come on.
No, that's true. There's so many people out there. I mean, really only the hardcore for that game are really excited for a remaster of a game that's just 2 years old, like 3 years old. Still, it doesn't make sense. Face, I see you, brother. He's like, can we really complain? Sony's been putting out games since the PS5 launch. Xbox didn't have launch games, and 2022 was bad for them. No, look, if you're going to compare the two, I guess they've had a better outing so far with first party. But again, you have to look at what they put out. And most of everything that came out in the first couple of years of the PlayStation 5's life cycle, it's games that were delayed from the PlayStation 4. Most of their first party was delayed games.
That's the funny thing about it. If Horizon and Ragnarok didn't get delayed, was that 2022?
Yeah.
If those didn't get delayed, they would be in the exact same spot that Xbox was in 2022. They would have been, they both would have been. What would they have had in 2022 without those games? Because didn't Gran Turismo 7 was also delayed? Like they would have, PlayStation and Xbox both would have had a really bad 2022. And I'll give you one better, just for fun, just for funsies, and somebody can clip this. Xbox had a better game than PlayStation in 2022 in Grounded, and I don't care what anyone says. That game was way better than my experience of playing God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West.
That's preference.
Full price.
That's your preference.
That's my
I
preference.
wouldn't agree,
and
but
Grounded was
I understand.
way better, more imaginative, more groundbreaking, better fleshed out game than 4.5. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I love Grounded though.
No. A lot of people like Grounded. I'm surprised. It actually has quite a big following.
Well, I won't bore you, but last night my son and I were playing when we got off the party chat. We built this gigantic circular arena out of mushroom bricks that looked like a gladiator arena, and we unleashed like 3 or 4 of the biggest bosses, because you can create this stuff and make it happen in the game now with the new update. So we had this huge battle arena, and we set up music for it to play, and we walked around the arena while the fight was going on, and it was nuts. And I was like, man, what a great, cool game. It's better than God of War.
You and your kids loved it, so I understand. You guys had great bonding time with that game as well.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Colt, despite the reviews of Call of Duty, the latest Modern Warfare 3 is still breaking records, and this time records in user engagement, Colt. This is in terms of the average gameplay per player, or playtime per player during its first 2 weeks on the market. So, I mean, it's funny that they're using the player engagement, though, to me. Does this mean that it probably didn't sell as well as Modern Warfare 2? I'm just speculating, because back then they were talking about, units sold, and now they're talking about engagement. So,
they're doing what PlayStation won't. They're talking about
what Xbox will. Yeah, what Xbox does.
Well, no. What I mean is PlayStation won't say anything when their game doesn't meet a certain criteria. Like we didn't hear about Horizon Forbidden West. We didn't hear about a couple of their big games. We didn't hear about how they sold, because they didn't want to spin it sideways. And that's what Call of Duty did. They said highest player engagement because this one didn't sell as high as last year's Call of Duty, which was way better. But the funny thing is it's still really, really popular. And I don't care. I've heard the campaign sucks. I'm not even going to bother. But I was playing zombies with a couple friends, and the zombies is in an open DMZ map. And so like there's zombies coming from everywhere, and you're running around grabbing gear like you do in Warzone or like Fortnite. And I was like, man, this is really, really fun. That's the price of admission right there for me.
No, let me read this super chat before Danny Passion was asking me about it. I'm sorry, brother. I missed it, but I found it. I got it up here. It's all good. Danny Passion official with the $5 super chat. The $5 super chat says the gaming industry is profitable enough to push TVs to have game running natively or via cloud. Just give them time. That's the future, folks. That's the future. Mike, with a super chat, $10. PlayStation games aren't perfect and have their caveats too. The difference is journalists and influencers don't propagate negative rhetoric towards Sony the same way they do on Xbox. That is the Xbox tax. All right. Enough.
Gosh, I love it.
All right. Ronnie Savage says, thank you very much for the super chat, guys. Colt, why do you think Xbox consoles not selling like PlayStations? Why you gotta be like that, Colt?
Yeah, two reasons. One of them is they don't have enough big games yet. The other reason is they don't have to. And that's what people don't understand. Like, the Xbox is not a requisite piece of hardware. You want to play the games on the Xbox platform, you don't have to. You're not required to buy an Xbox console. If you want to play PlayStation's games, the gateway is console first. So you have to buy the console. Of course, they're more popular, but that's it. That's it. If you don't want to play on a console, you don't have to on Xbox. That value and choice and flexibility should, and I think for most real outlets, that is celebrated. That they don't force you to play on a Series S or Series X.
Yeah.
Like when Starfield comes out, Starfield's a big game. It's going to be this big space epic. When that is coming out, like you hear, oh, it's 30 frames. Well, that's not the end of the world. It's not over. If you want it 60, go and build or borrow or stream it or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not a requisite console. It's one of the reasons why Xbox will never sell over 60 million consoles in their generation anymore, because you don't have to have one. Imagine if Nintendo, which all their games could run on anybody's current smartphone, imagine if Nintendo was like, you know what? We just want to sell games in the billions. They would just put them on a phone and not make a Switch. But that's what they do.
Well, I mean, we've been saying that forever now. Xbox doesn't care where you play, PC, be it, the console, whatever. And they will have another console next generation as well. It's not like I'm worried about consoles going away or anything, but I do see that there's a lot of places that they're allowing us to play. So there's always going to be a place for Game Pass. And that's the number one thing to me, is the fact that I want Game Pass to continue. I want it to excel. I want it to bring me as many games as they can within that service, because I love it. And that's one of the reasons why, I talk about Sony and I wish that they would do the same for their games and put their games day and date in their service, as well as get some, even some multi-plats in their day and date. But yeah, I would jump all over it if it was. I like these types of services, man. I think they save me money. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
But with Call of Duty, what I was talking about there, it's like it doesn't matter like how this game is received by the reviewers. It always sells, people. It will always, like, it's an enigma. You cannot beat Call of Duty. Like, if you've got a game coming out, you don't put it out with the same month as COD. Like, you just don't do that. Like, I don't care how bad the game is, which I heard the multiplayer is really good. Like, people are saying it's really good, back to form. A really good multiplayer, and some people I heard even liked the campaign, but I heard the campaign objectively isn't the best. So
yeah, I hear lots of people say it's like the best one I played in years. I'm like, I guess. I mean, I'm not hearing that from everybody else. It's fine. But.
Yeah. Face 23 BKNY says some stores are not selling Xbox anymore. Well, that may be. I don't know. Like, what stores are you talking about?
No, that's not true.
Frank Shack? I don't know. Walmart has them. Target has them.
No, I've
Best Buy.
I live in a city with 100,000 plus people, and for 3 years, I've never seen a PS5, a Series S or X at my Walmart in the case. They stack controllers in there, so I think you might be able to ask, and they've got them in the back. I don't know what they were doing that at one point at some stores, but I've seen a couple Series S's at Target. But
you know what I think he's talking about? There was a Twitter post, and it had a video in it of them like pulling it off the shelves or something, and it was like some obscure place in France or something, like some store, like.
No, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that they're sitting there filling up the shelves and that some stores don't even sell them anymore. They're weird. They're still not in stock in force, and it's been 3 years. I know people are going to say, well, I live in Milwaukee and I see them all the time. It's like, I don't know. I live in Washington State, and I've seen the cardboard cards of the Series S and X and PS5 at Costco, but I've been on, I don't go everywhere, but I just don't see him on the shelves.
Yeah, it's like some guy,
like a thing of the past.
Some guy in just backwoods Alabama is like, well, at the Jay's Electronics, they pulled all the Xboxes out of there. They don't like it. Like, they like their PlayStations. That's what sells. And I don't care about Jay's Electronics, okay? I'm talking about Best Buys, Walmarts, Targets, all these big freaking chain brick and mortar stores. Yes, they still have Xboxes. Like, don't go running around with this, like, this rhetoric that they're pulling them off the shelves. It's all doom and gloom. Instead, let's talk about that PlayStation getting sued, Colt. So apparently there's a guy in the UK who is suing PlayStation. That's right. Apparently it's because Sony is not letting people buy their games just anywhere. Like you can on like CD Keys, G2A, those sites and stuff. Like you can get deals. Even some reputable companies have deals with games sometimes, a few bucks off or whatever, even Amazon. But Sony doesn't allow them to do that. You can only buy their games through their store or at their prices, no matter what. So this guy is suing. He's saying it's kind of unfair. I think his name is Alex Neal. He filed a lawsuit in 2022. He accuses Sony of abusing the market with excessively high prices through their digital stores. It's scummy practice for sure. Because like with Xbox games, I can get a discount on Xbox games. Like I can buy them at other places and get a few bucks off. And it's nice, even day and date. But with Sony games, it's really hard to find deals. And he's suing. He's saying it's not right. And I don't know. What do you think about that? How do you think this is going to play out? You think it'll get thrown out?
I don't think it's actually going to get thrown out from what I've heard. And I haven't even dug into the information on this lawsuit very closely. But a lot of people tried to dismiss it and say everybody does this. Nintendo
they don't.
And Xbox all have their storefronts. But the difference between how PlayStation charges more for digital...
No. The difference is they allow other storefronts to have their games as well.
Yes.
That's the difference.
And the other part of the lawsuit has to do with PlayStation charging more for digital games than they do for physical. I listened to Ono's Alex kind of break it down, and he dug into it because I didn't know that. He pays attention to a lot of the storefront stuff that goes on because consoles have overcharged for quite a while because I don't know why they do that, but
it's accurate here too, Captain Chats. It's not just in the UK. Sony does the same thing here. You can only buy their digital games through their digital storefront at their high prices.
That's just perplexes me that they've been around 25 years. They're one of the de facto gaming platforms, and they still don't allow you to refund a game. They have a zero refund policy unless the studio says our game's broken. Then they'll finally, like they barely delivered the refunds for Cyberpunk amidst one of the biggest gaming controversies of a lifetime. They're so staunch in how they treat their customers. And this comes at an opportune time when Jez Corden of Windows Central showed that the gaming revenue would put PlayStation like, I don't know, $5 billion behind Xbox and Tencent, and Apple like $5 billion per year in revenue behind their competitors. And if this lawsuit goes through, it'll be even lower than that.
There's a guy in my chat. He's just yelling, "This lawsuit won't go anywhere."
I refuse. You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle it. PlayStation has the right. Yeah. No.
If the lawsuit doesn't go anywhere, it's because PlayStation will settle for a large amount of money and
hush the guy up. Here, Alex.
And then they won't change their anti-consumer business practice. Destin Legary was getting rode pretty hard by Xbox fans about a lot of stuff you and I said here today.
Did you say rode pretty? What?
Rode like
man, that thing is massively huge.
Do I really sound like that? Destin was getting railed pretty good over this Xbox tax thing. And one of the things he said was he prefers Xbox and he likes PlayStation a lot because they do a really good job and they offer a lot of quality, but he is really dissatisfied with their consumer practices and their choices that they offer to their customers. It is the most frustrating thing from the PlayStation platform. It's never changed. And until they drop down behind second place behind Nintendo, I don't think they ever will change because they feel like we lead, we can do whatever we want. And that competition hurts PlayStation fans in the pocketbook and bathing suit area.
Well, it's just funny to me. It's actually refreshing to know that there's PlayStation guys out there that are sick of it. These types of things that PlayStation is doing. I've been saying for years they're turning more and more into Apple. They're getting more Apple-esque with their hardware, with their proprietary BS, their pricing, all that stuff. It's just very Apple-esque. And it's nice to see some PlayStation guys actually call it out and actually file lawsuits. That's even bigger, because most of the people that we tend to see in the community anyway, it's just a small demographic. But my God, there's so many like fanboys out there who relish in saying that they would gladly pay $100 per game because Sony makes such quality products. I'm like, look, as much as I love a Sony game, you're flipping insane to say that you would pay $100 per game, because that's exactly what they want to do to you. That's exactly what they want to do. Like, they wanted to push $80 games. Like, they wanted that. And I find it crazy. If you keep doing this type of bootlicking as a fanboy of any corporation, it's weird. It's straight up weird. Like I have no affiliation with Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, and I don't align myself with anybody in that way, even though people always say you're an Xbot or you're a pony, depending on what I say. I don't care about this plastic. I just care about the games. Give me good games, but at a decent price. Do not try to, upcharge me for these games and try to sell me on, we're using better, stuff now. We got 4090s and we need to push this tech and it takes much longer to use this and we're going to need to charge you. No, you're already making a killing off each and every sale you're making on these games. I don't want to hear it. You can look at the financials. That's all you have to do. You're making a bunch of money on these games per game. There's no reason there was no reason to upcharge us to $70. That was crazy, but they did.
Yeah. They did because they can, and will pay, and they do the same. Console platforms do the same thing.
That's called the PlayStation tax.
You'll pay and you'll like it.
The PlayStation tax. No, Ronnie Savage says, should Xbox fans ditch it and go PC? Oh, he's talking about ditching the consoles. No, you shouldn't expect everybody to ditch a console. Like, if you want more out of gaming or whatever, if you're like a stickler for having ultra settings and, highest frame rates possible, go ahead. Yeah, by all means, that's your choice. But if that doesn't mean anything to you and you just want to play these games, for $500, the Series X is an amazing piece of machinery. Like, it plays these games absolutely beautifully. It looks great, runs great. Most of the games that we've had, have even 60 frames and stuff, and they're great looking games. And there's no point into going PC. But if you want that higher end experience, by all means, that's on you. I don't have a problem with these consoles. 40
million fans are not going to
suddenly go to
PC when they bought an
because
Xbox.
The PC it can be a headache. I know a lot of people like to say no, PC is just better, and I never have problems. I'll sit there and I don't have to worry. What you have to download what is it called? The drivers. Yeah, that's nothing. The drivers is nothing. And it's not just that, though. It's other things besides the drivers.
It's the little things that add up that you're like, oh, man. Because I was playing on PC for 3 years solid. And then when the Xbox... Yeah, I mean, and it's not nothing. It's not really anything to whine about. But I was on PC for like 2 or 3 years solid until the Xbox One X came out. And yeah, I got a lot of games at 30 frames. I was like, man, this overall experience is so like cultivated and so easy and so accessible. Yeah. And then I go back and play both, but and people are like, you literally don't need an Xbox. And I said that
you don't
earlier, like you the reason why the console sells, you don't need an Xbox, but don't tell Xbox guys to not buy an Xbox, because then they have hundreds of games that don't freely carry over to the PC. I hate when people say you literally don't need an Xbox, don't buy one, or get rid of it. Like they'll say, just go to PC, get rid of your Xbox, and then they have hundreds of games that no longer belong to them on the PC.
You know what's weird to me is when people say, I've gone to PC and that's where I play my Xbox games. It's great to have my Xbox games there. But PlayStation, they better not ever do day and date on PC.
And they
why?
will.
Why? There's nothing wrong with that.
I'll tell you why. Because they are stuck in the 2010s mentality of this plastic versus this plastic, like the two helmets clashing together, that it's really all about the plastic for them. And if PlayStation, and they will, when they go day and date with their big games on PC, that's going to be hard for them to understand, because now it's no longer plastic versus plastic. Now it's game studio versus game studio. And really it should be about the games and not the plastic. It's just a means to get into it.
Break it down. It's about the games.
And Real Gamer was like, you can set up your games to automatically download drivers. Yes.
Yeah, you can.
All of that works. And you can even go into, if you have a NVIDIA GPU, you can even go into that program, tell it to auto optimize your games. Like, all that stuff's fine. It's not a big deal. But there are
the little things that go wrong, especially, let me just say, because I have many friends on PC and they do tell me the truth. Sometimes you just get a very, very unoptimized game day and date.
Oh yeah.
On PC.
Forza Motorsport's
and it sucks.
Horrid.
It sucks.
Horrid.
But that said, like, again, there is great things about PC. I would own one myself. Like I said earlier, if I could afford it, I would too. But there's nothing wrong with the consoles. The consoles themselves are great. Yes. Are they a little underpowered? Yes, they're underpowered for sure. But we're talking about a console that was designed back in 2018. So of course you're getting 2018, 2020 tech, mixed in, and you've got this console that is behind several years. So of course it's not going to be as
and
nice.
Do not try to push $500 or $1,000 PC builds on people who are used to playing every new EA or Ubisoft game. They will be so upset, and they'll end up dumping money into a PC that they'll have to replace a power supply to get a bigger GPU because they realize the mistake of a budget PC.
Yeah, budget PCs are terrible.
Do what they want.
You honestly, if you want a great experience on PC, you're going to have to spend at least $2,000. I don't care what people say. It's around $2,000. Like,
my PC is about a year and a half old, and it has a 3080 in it, and it was $2,500. If I would have built it myself, it would have been cheaper. But it
might have been $2,000.
If you want that push to ray tracing plus the 60 frames on these big AAA games that are coming out now, it's like, it's asking a lot.
Yeah, so because I've been tinkering with GeForce Now, and of course this is like based over the cloud, but it's a high-end PC on the other end. And it's got a 4080 in it, which is one of the highest end cards out.
4090, right?
No, it's a 4080. It's a 4080.
Okay.
So I've been playing around with some older games even, and I've been like maxing out settings and stuff, and it still has frame dips and stuff. I see it. It's not perfect at all. Like you can't just max everything out on everything and think, oh, I got a 4080. It's going to run everything perfect. No, it's not like that either. Like, there's a lot of optimization that needs to be done with games. So some of the older ones even just aren't really optimized for these new cards, and they don't play as great as you want them to. But it's nice though. It's nice. But then again, you're talking about probably a 4080 PC with all the bells and whistles and stuff, great components. You're probably talking about a $3,500 to $4,000 PC. It's probably really expensive, at least $3,000. I don't know the exact price, but it's really expensive. And the $500 console price point is just beautiful because you can get games at 1440p, 60 frames, looking amazing, feeling good. There's no reason to do that. But there are those few games that make me go to something like GeForce Now that aren't running up to snuff on these consoles. And that's just the way it's going to be until they kind of streamline their software. I think once they get more of a handle on the software and it becomes better and easier for them to use, I think that's where it'll help out these consoles for sure. So I don't know. That's the way I look at it, Colt. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
But Yeah, no, it's crazy that people just like always try to push people one way or the other. Dorian Gray says PC parts are cheap now. I've been looking; they're not that cheap for a good GPU.
Have you been
man.
trying to build?
Ooh.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm just I'm taking a look at it because I'm kind of pricing things out and everything. It's pretty expensive stuff, man.
Yeah, my friend just bought a 4090 i9 based PC pre-build for $3,500. It was like $500 off, so it was a $4,000 PC. So yeah, that's giving you 60 to 120 frames with ray tracing on. But you know, it's like games can only look so good based on how they're built. Like I've seen, I've watched on YouTube Cyberpunk at its absolute best. I'm like,
gosh, looks great.
$4,000 though.
But yeah.
You know, it's like,
it's a steep price. Boba Fett Gaming in the chat said he paid $8,000 for his 3080 Ti, but that was years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Face asked me, Colt, are you going to do a video on the PS5 Pro? How do you think games will run on it? I think games will have, if there's a performance mode RT, it'll be at a higher resolution. I'm predicting that the PS5 Pro will run more GPU related stuff higher, like the PS4 Pro did in the Xbox One X. I don't think it'll be doubling frame rates, but I know that developers are trying to push for performance mode. We just heard yesterday that Wonder Woman is running at 30 frames currently, but they want a performance mode. Monolith does, so they're working hard to get. And here you got a game built from the ground up to be on Xbox Series and PS5 consoles, and they're already worried about, are they going to be able to deliver 60 frames? And it's the games are just more intense than they used to be. And Matt Booty explained that they're trying to offload what developers used to build a game and put all the processing on the GPU, because that's where consoles or even some PC builds that was their strength. So all the processing would be done where the graphics rendering and things like that were supposed to be done. So now they're trying to offload more tasks to the CPU, since the PS5 and Xbox Series S and X both have really fast simultaneous multi-thread cores. So it's just going to be a change in how games are developed, because in the beginning, FOnz, we had Far Cry 6 ran at near 4K 60. You had all these games, the PlayStation games that were built off of the PS4 counterpart. Of course, they run great because they were based on a foundation that was made to run on a 1 teraflop console. It's the reason why Spider-Man looks so great. You can take that simple structure and just run it up to the ceiling.
Yeah. And
get high resolution. You get ray tracing and performance mode.
And I, speaking of ray tracing, Wade Johnson in the chat says, Alan Wake 2 looks incredible without ray tracing. And he's right. Like, there's so many games that look incredible without ray tracing. Ray tracing is not necessary.
It's not worth it.
I think ray tracing is incredible on like a $6,000 computer, and has everything pushed to the max. You can see a difference there for sure, but it's not worth that cost. It just isn't to me. Like, if my $500 console can look amazing without it, so be it. Like, please, like, if I can get a game that looks great and it runs at 60 frames without ray tracing, I want that. I want that. I don't want the 30 frames. Oh, but we've got ray trace shadows in this version. No, I don't care about that, because I'm good with screen space reflections and cube mapping and stuff. I'm good with that. Like, it can look incredible. We've gone many years with that process, and we've seen great outcomes in these games. It's just, the path ray traced Cyberpunk is gotcha. I know, I've seen it. It looks incredible, but it's not worth the cost, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, Dorian Gray. I don't think it's worth it.
You can load up the PS5 or Series X version of Cyberpunk in performance mode, and the biggest standout you're going to get, because the lighting's pretty cool in that game, even in performance mode without ray tracing, that you'll get a lot of jaggedy edges. The resolution's a little shimmery.
Yeah.
But when you walk around in that game for $500 and go, man, it looks so good. And then you think about the prospect of spending $4,000 to get all those edges sharp with a little bit more realistic lighting, and you're like, is that what you want to do?
Yeah,
Because not every game's going to offer that. You can throw any PC at some of these games, like even Forza Motorsport, the new one. I threw my PC at it, and I'm like, it doesn't look transformative for $2,500.
I still maintain
there's only so much you can do.
I still maintain that HDR has a more dramatic effect when done right in a game than ray tracing, in my opinion. I play a game, Baldur's Gate, for instance. When I was playing it without the HDR, and then I enabled the HDR, and I was just blown away at how much better it looks. And this happens with other games too all the time. Like, we'll turn on and off HDR depending on how bad or good it is. Like Colt, we've run into games that have poor HDR, and we ended up turning it off because it just does not look right.
Starfield had bad HDR at the launch.
Yeah. Now they kind of have a slider, right, where you can kind of change certain aspects of the HDR to help you out. I think it's like brightness and something else, but
brightness, contrast, and the HDR brightness, I think, is 3 different sliders, and the game looks way better.
And that's provided you have a good
a field
TV
of view,
too,
which was nice.
You have to have a TV that actually has good HDR implementation as well. You can't just have like a $400 TV that I got an 85-inch for $400 at Kraken Shack. And no,
I was playing Dead Island 2, which I think had better lighting than Cyberpunk with ray tracing, and it was all baked in. Yeah. The artists just knew how to make it look realistic. And I think video games with baked in lighting, when the developers are able to get that, when you walk into a room and you're like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to look, like the soft corners that are darkened and the way the light pours in. When it's fake,
case in point,
looks great.
Case in point, Red Dead 2. The baked in lighting in that looked incredible when you're going from inside to
broken
outside.
HDR, though.
Yeah, it had broken HDR. It did. And I was the first to call that out.
I was playing that on PC yesterday.
That was one of my claim to fames. I remember back in the day, like on Twitter, the first day that game came out, I said, the HDR is broken, and people argued with me forever. And then the day after that, the articles came out.
I remember
HDR
that.
is broken. I was like, I told you guys. They were
writing you on the Twitter.
Oh, man. I had Xbox and PlayStation guys going, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what HDR is. And I'm like, I know what it is. And I've been, because I was an early adopter of HDR TVs, like when it first came out, and I was just like blown away by it. And I knew it was borked, and I was telling people, hey, it's broken. And everybody came at me. Then the next day I was vindicated. I was like, thank you. Vincent from HD TV Tests had a video out talking about it. And I was like, yes. But yeah, anyways, great HDR implementation. HDR implementation in these games is key. Like it does make a dramatic effect in some of these games. In my opinion, I think it's better than ray tracing.
Mike says it takes a lot of dev time to bake in lighting compared to ray tracing. Ray tracing is a turn on and off, but the problem with ray tracing is, Mike, they have to budget in that it's like 4 times more intensive to have ray tracing on than it is to bake in the lighting. And bake in lighting also means you have a lamp in the corner, you have to throw a light source on it. You have to stick a light source there, and they change the texture mapping. So instead of just a beige lamp, the textures actually looks like it's lit. And they use this combination of fake shadows, and baked lighting does take more time, but then you get to ramp up everything else once you've made these set places.
I'd be fine with ray tracing, because it does help them move along, the time it takes to make these games and stuff, and helps with the lighting. I get it, but it's at the cost of it's a resource hog for our hardware. And if they streamline that and they find ways to really tackle that aspect and make it to where it doesn't become such a resource hog, I'd be fine with it, of course. But that's the problem. It's like, especially with the consoles, it's either ray tracing or 60 frames. And I don't want to be making that choice anymore, or I don't want them to make the choice for me. If they give me that choice within a game, I always pick the 60 frames. I don't pick ray tracing.
They did that with Jedi Survivor. They forced ray tracing, and the game ran at like 38 frames.
It was awful. And then they took it off, and what do you know? Fixed the game. Higher frames. And I was like, I told you. Like, it's
Yeah.
I was saying that from the beginning. I'm like, just take, and I even added them on Twitter. I was like, hey, can you please take the ray tracing off the game? Because I want my 60 frames. And they
Christian
finally
A says,
listened.
Colt, why doesn't anybody want an Xbox? 30 to 40 million people want an Xbox despite not even needing to have one. So the console's doing quite well for not being prerequisite, but Xbox is not pushing the console. They hardly even really market it. So they're all about providing really great games in their ecosystem, and they're about to shake up the games industry. They already are shaking up the games industry where you can play all their games for, $18 a month at the top end. So PlayStation will soon follow. They will soon learn that selling a game for $70 or getting people to pay a year of PS Premium is going to make them far more money.
Or they're going to, and I think they're also going to learn putting your game on PC day and date is the way.
Yep, they're going to do both.
It's the way.
Because Spider-Man did really well, but if it would have been on PC, they're kind of still banking on that double dip thing because PlayStation looks at the economy of selling games in a very old-fashioned way, a very traditional way.
Yeah.
And they're going to soon learn they're going to make a lot more money by offering that choice and value to their fans. You'll see. It'll happen.
Danny Passion Official, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Oh, I'm sorry. With a glorious $5 super chat. Ray tracing looks fire on the 5K PC. Ray tracing on consoles sucks. By the way, I have a built-in PC with a 4090 last December, but the main reason was to speed up video editing workflow. That's why I got it. All right. And no, I understood. Yeah, I remember when you were building that PC last year. I was pretty impressed, man. You were telling me you were going to get the 4090 and great freaking CPU and everything. I was just like blown away. But yeah, that's awesome. And I know you do a lot of video editing and stuff in your work, so that's great, man.
Yeah, and a PC could pay for itself when the games are cheaper overall. They could add up. Like I got
the Steam
you can get
library
games for $50, sometimes $45. You can get them. They go cheaper faster than on console. It's a ridiculous tax when you look at that. Christian A says, Colt, where is it? This is kind of funny. So another one where people just run with a headline. He says, I lost it. The Series X is the Pro version and nobody wants it. 70% of people own an S. No, 51% of the people own the Series X. If you'd actually read the news reports that came out about that, that was an incorrect report from some site that didn't know what they're talking about.
And that's
half and half.
It's shocking to me, honestly, because I would assume that the Series S would sell more. Just
I assumed
on
it would
sheer
too,
value alone.
But the Series S is supposed to be $300, and I think fans just look at that and go, "Why not pay an extra $200 and get the 4K experience?" And you get a lot more out of it with that.
Looking back now in hindsight, though, are you like me, Colt? I kind of feel like before I tell you how I feel, looking back, do you think the Series S was kind of a mistake? Or is that the wrong word?
Yeah, that's the wrong word. The Series S is an amazing idea and plan. I just didn't know the RAM pool was going to be so low. We had heard the rumors for a long time that it was basically an Xbox One X with a faster CPU. And it wasn't. They cheaped out on the RAM because the RAM is the most expensive part of the console. And the weird thing is, I don't know why, but Xbox does not make as much money on their consoles as PlayStation does, probably because of the amount of consoles that PlayStation sells. Over time, the profit margin shrinks. And within the first 2 years, they were making money on the PS5, while Xbox is still taking a little bit and subsidizing the console, which I think is another reason why they don't push it. It's like, this is just one entry point into our ecosystem. We're not making a lot of money in the console, so let's just let it do its thing. A Real Gamer says, Colt, really, what great games? When? PlayStation will have their great games next year. They're third-party published games, but they'll have their bigger games coming probably
Wolverine in 2025. I assume, look, as good as like Spider-Man is with its combat and stuff, you know that they're going to make a great, Insomniac's going to make a great Wolverine. Like I have high hopes for that game. I'm really looking forward to that one, and that's 2025 supposedly. So I just don't know of the other games, but it's silly to assume. Like I said earlier, you're very naive if you don't think Sony's, development studios aren't making some games right now.
And Helldivers and Rise of Ronin, those games all look really promising. They'll probably do really well. So, Real Gamer, there will be good games on PlayStation. Yeah. It's just kind of a wait through. This year's been kind of it's been hit or miss. It's been good though. Like I think a lot of people really liked Final Fantasy 16, but it kind of had its reputation for issues of like being really heavy in cinematics and not being like a true Final Fantasy game. But they didn't make that, so yeah.
This year I find that I haven't had any time where I didn't have a game to play. It's been so stacked this year to the fact that now that I'm playing Baldur's Gate, I still have a lot more hours to play into that game. But after I'm done with that, I'm like, I don't have to worry about games because I still have others to get to. Like I have Phantom Liberty to play next.
Yeah.
I still have that game to go to. And I'm excited for
it was great, man. I spent like 80, almost 100 hours starting from scratch and then going through Phantom Liberty. What a great experience.
Yeah. Oh boy. I've got the PC crowd coming in now. The Just Gaming podcast has wrapped up. Mark celebrating the game. He's been a member for he's been celebrating his membership for 13 months. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate that. He says BG3, Baldur's Gate 3, baby. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3. It's amazing, man. I really love the game. Having a great time with it. People are sick of me talking about it, though. Twitter, here, everywhere, they're just like, shut up. We know you like it, but I'm sorry. It's a really freaking good game. When it comes out on Xbox, people, if you're okay with turn-based games, please, I implore you, play it. It's so good. The story, the narrative is really good. The companions are well fleshed out, too. Just great writing there. Danny Passion Official, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, FOnz, what's the best class for beginners on BG3? Easily, I'm not an expert, but I'll just tell you right away, the fighter. The fighter is probably the easiest class to pick up and learn because you don't have to deal with so many spells and stuff. So you're just hacking stuff. There's still a learning curve, though. The game is not easy. I wouldn't say it was easy. There's a learning curve. If you know a little bit about D&D, that'll help. Dungeons and Dragons, that'll help. But yeah, it's the fighter class is probably the easiest. That's what I would go with if you're wanting to go the easy route. Because that's where I started. I was doing the fighter class, and I kind of mixed the fighter into rogue. Because you can have classes mixed in there. You can have up to 3 classes mixed, and I use a rogue mix with my fighter, and I'm loving it. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you very much. You guys have been awesome. We did over 2 hours today, people. That's a long show. I appreciate all of you. Colt, I especially appreciate you. And I appreciate Mark for telling me that, sending me the super chat, telling me that he loves what I do and what I provide to the community, which is absolutely nothing but an old guy talking about games and his opinions that a lot of people hate, apparently. I don't know. A lot of people don't like my opinions, but and I appreciate that people do listen to me. That's the one thing I do appreciate. But thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Anyways, Colt, I appreciate you for being here today. You've been awesome. Thank you for enjoying, coming with me to enjoy my 100th episode here. Lots of good talk, lots of, I don't want to say negative, but we had, things to talk about. The Xbox tax thing was a big deal. But thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
Where can they find you? Oh, go ahead.
You can find me at Colt Eastwood on Twitter and Colt Eastwood on YouTube, where I have a podcast and I try to do weekly videos. We're winding down, though. It's been kind of quiet lately, but there's a little bit of stuff that's starting to whisper around, I think. Starting to whisper around, he says. Yeah. Well, this is funny. We got a big Xbox fan in your chat, Real Gamer, who said that he was referring to Game Pass not having great games on the service, not PlayStation, which I thought was pretty funny because Game Pass has really, really good games on the service. They just had Sea of Stars, which is one of the highest rated games this year. Of course, Starfield and Forza, and they've had a couple of their games. Like, I guess you could just say the only bad one that really Xbox has had this entire generation is Redfall was on Game Pass. But overall, OpenCritic gives Game Pass the highest rated service of games in existence, with the most mighty high rated games out of all the other services. Right now, actually, the PlayStation fans are complaining and asking for more games, or telling people they should cancel their subscription because the offer of games on PS Plus has not been good this past few months. Typically, the type of games they put on PlayStation Plus have been really decent. I think even if they're older games, they put pretty cool games on there, way better than games that Gold did. But apparently, the PlayStation fans are not happy with the current state of the PS Plus tiers.
Hold up, Go Packers! You can't do that.
You can't do that.
You can't come in here with my man Beetlejuice's face on your avatar and tell Xbox to cry harder. Pathetic bots cry. Xbox tax. I guess you didn't
I know
listen
him.
to the
He's
show,
a big Xbox fan too. I've talked to him before.
Jeez.
He's just kidding.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he's just kidding around. He's a big fan, plays all the Xbox games, wears a lot of the Xbox. Like, I don't even own Xbox merch, but like he wears the t-shirts with the Xbox logo on them. Always has that Xbox hat on. It's like, yeah, kind of cringe. Whatever you love.
He's that hard. Yeah, he's that hardcore. Matt McDonald Media. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat. He says, "Hey, Fonz and Colt, do you guys want to see Hellblade at the TGAs, or would you rather see it at the Developer Direct in January?" I don't want to see it at all.
Nope, I don't want to see it at all. Because,
and I'm not saying that I'm passing on this game. I'm just sick and tired of what they do when they show this game. It's just not a very good showing. I want to see Combat Forever now, and all we see is like, "Hello, we are still over here with motion cap," and I don't want to see that stuff. I want to see the gameplay. I want to see the actual combat. And when I say gameplay, I don't mean walking up to a puddle and staring at it and going and hearing voices. I don't want to see that.
I'm not writing on, I might change my intro again. I had Senua on my intro for my videos. I might change that again. I took Master Chief off when I was disappointed with how things were going for Master Chief. So yeah, I might find a new mascot, as it were, for my intro. Who knows?
Oh,
I love that song so much. Don't you wish we were on a platform where you could play regular music?
Oh, you'll get demonetized big time.
Yep.
Anyways, as I was about to leave the show, I had the super chat come in. So Colt, again, you said they can find you on Twitter or X at Colt Eastwood,
or on YouTube at Colt Eastwood. Yeah,
that's right. Everybody here knows you and knows where they can find you, I'm sure. But I just wanted you to put that out there, and I want to say thanks to everybody that's listening to this after we've gone off air, because I'll put this. I said off air, like this is the radio or something. Oh yeah, it is the radio. We're on NPR.
It is pretty
now.
much, yeah.
Yeah, we're on AM radio, people. Tune us in, 590 on the dial. Wait, is there a dial now? It's all push button now. There is no dial. We're old.
No, there's no dial.
Damn, we're old. Anyways, thank you very much for listening, watching, all that stuff. Thank you very much to everybody who is a member that's down below, that is scrolling across your screen right now. I appreciate you guys so much for supporting me for so many years now. Appreciate you. Until next time, guys, game on.